Well, hey everyone. Nate here from Live Good Dynasty to talk about this week's start of the weeks. You might notice I'm by myself. I think I did this to Arlen last week, so he's not anywhere to be found here. I heard that he actually had an appointment this morning, some sort of emergency for beard regrowths. He was talking about tea tree oils and all kinds of stuff. I don't know what was happening, but anyway, he couldn't make it today. So I just wanted to get into this. I know it's Saturday morning, Saturday vibes are going, and a lot of us out there are fantasy weekend warriors, and maybe you missed out on who to start this week and wanted to jump into an opportunity to share with you who my starts of the week are. So let's get into this thing and jump right in. All right, so we're trying this thing over the last couple of weeks where we're just launching some ideas of who you can start. Maybe you've been struggling with some of your starters of who you've had, and I'm going to do this a little differently, maybe than even Arlen did last week, where I'm going to take a look at folks that maybe you wouldn't be starting or putting in your 1 and 2 spots. Maybe they're a flex consideration. Maybe they're at the top of your bench and you're like, should I start them this week? Shouldn't I start them? So I'm trying to find folks that are lower down in the rankings that I think are worthy of those 1-2 spots. So when we think about our starts of the week this week, I just going to hit them position by position here and really consider what we're going to do with these folks. So as we jump into quarterback, someone that has been having some off weeks the last few weeks and we thought maybe was a superstar in his rookie year last year, but has been struggling as of late. I think this is a comeback week for our boy CJ Stroud. Maybe you've been starting Patrick Mahomes, maybe even started someone ahead of him that maybe hasn't been doing it for you, and you look at CJ Stroud and you're like, man, the last 4 weeks have been rough. Over the last 4 weeks, he's only got 2 touchdowns, and he's coming off of a 2 interception game last game, so I totally understand the trepidation, but here's some things to consider. He's up against Dallas this week, and they give it up to quarterbacks for sure, and on Monday night, he's getting back his arguably favorite weapon in Nico Collins, someone who helped him light it up earlier in the season. He had 4 full games earlier in the season. It's when we saw where we saw CJ Stroud really come into his own. So I think with that weapon coming back, playing up against Dallas, I think you're going to get a much better version of CJ Stroud. I'm looking for a comeback game for him where he's startable, very, very much even top 8 potential here going into your week. So if you have him outside of your starting lineup, I would definitely lock him in for sure. Now, when we're thinking about our running back position, I have another person whom I am expecting to have a comeback of even greater significance than that of CJ Stroud. Because here's the deal. This guy, over the last 3 weeks, has played 3 of the roughest running back defenses there are out there in Cincinnati, Baltimore, and the LA Chargers. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm talking about Nick Chubb. And this is a nod over to my boy Arlen. I can't be accused of being a bit of a homer myself, so I just decided to pick a player from his squad. So when we think about Nick Chubb, you might have even more trepidation about starting him and putting him into your lineups because he hasn't scored over 11 points or 11.2 points in both formats over the last 3 games since he's been back. But like I said, he's been up against it with Cincinnati, Baltimore, and the LA Chargers. And he's coming off of a bye where he's gotten the rest. He's getting used to the playing time. He's working up his endurance. And he is up against New Orleans, who is not, for lack of a better term, not the greatest running back defense out there. They really give it up to teams out there. Probably the 5th best in terms of points scored this year team to play up against for a running back. So with that in mind, Nick Chubb returning to form. He's returned to play, but I think he returns to performance this week. And he has an opportunity to really run it up and get his juju back because he's been out of it for so long, coming off that long injury, that horrendous injury last year. And then coming back to 3 really tough defenses, I think this is where we see him explode. So Nick Chubb, who based on some rankings, Nick Chubb is outside of the top 20. Consensus on ESPN, he's number 21, as low as 24. But I think he is solidly a RB2, can even peek into RB1 territory this week, going into week 11. So find your way to starting Nick Chubb. If you've got him, I think you've got an opportunity to really, really go for it here. So for my wide receiver, who I'm really considering and who I would say is my start of the week, this guy is ranked way outside of where you would normally have. You might have him at the end of flex considerations with with ESPN rankings. He has ranked as low as 29 or as low as 33, but consensus at 29. And that's Jauan Jennings going up against Seattle. I'm expecting a little bit more of a shootout here. He's got a great opportunity to continue the upward trajectory he came back to when he played last week in Tampa Bay. Came away with 93 yards on 7 receptions. He going into Seattle, still a wide receiver friendly defense. I think he's got a shot to continue to be just a solid wide receiver too. Someone that you can put in your starting lineup if you have him sitting outside. I know he had some rough weeks, and then is coming back after a couple weeks off and the bye week there. But I think Jauan Jennings would be someone that I would look to as someone that if he starts, I think he's someone that you can look to as a wide receiver too for sure. He did have an ankle injury, and was removed from the board on Friday, so should be good to go. Now, tight end gets a little bit tougher. For my tight end start of the week, we talked about him on our playoff push considerations, playoff push players that we think that would have a great last 4 games going into the playoffs here. And so I'm sticking with him as my start of the week for this week because he's up against a Las Vegas defense who doesn't do well against tight ends. And this veteran has earned the respect of his quarterback and earn the trust of his quarterback, especially while he has wide receivers that are currently struggling. And that's Jonnu Smith. Now, there was a time and place where we thought every single reception and every single good thing that happens is when the ball lands in the hands of number 10 or number 17. But that just isn't the case right now. And we are seeing pass plays going to Jonnu Smith in a trustworthy fashion from Tua. So someone that trusted, someone that you could start going up against Las Vegas this week at home. So we can see great things from Jonnu. Trustworthy hands. Look for him to have a top 10 tight end week. All right, folks, that's my starts of the week for this week. Hopefully you all already have your lineups pretty close to set and you're just making those last minute decisions, and maybe these 4 guys can help you out as you go through the week. Good luck. If you don't already, make sure you're finding your way to our subscribe button here on YouTube or listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the places you can find us. And don't forget, if you disagree with me, let me know. Throw it in the chat. Throw it in the conversation. We'd love to engage with you. Let me know who your starts of the week are. We'd love to hear it, and we will chat with you soon.